Hey, I want to get to a couple of these other topics, at least one of the other ones, without going too long in our podcast, because it's a beautiful Friday morning, and I want to let you get on with the rest of your day as soon as we can. But I wanted to talk a little bit about training and racing in the heat. You and I had chatted yesterday. We've had a little bit of a heat wave in Western PA for the last week or so, and then a cold front came through. So yesterday was nice and cool, and I commented how much energy I had compared to the previous hot days. And you said that you tended to be drawn towards races in hotter climates because you really excel in that respect. How did you discover that heat was your friend as opposed to the enemy, and how do you deal with training in the heat, and what do you think makes you better at it than other people?
Yeah, I think certain people can do really well in the heat, and I think there's certain people that cannot do really well in the heat, and I think it's just based on how our bodies are put together. Mm-hmm. I discovered that I did well in the heat when I did Ironman Louisville in 2012. I was able to maintain a pretty good pace especially on the marathon, and manage the heat pretty well. Mm-hmm. My body just seemed to take it pretty well. So when I race plan, I always plan for races that have a little bit more of a heat factor, because I feel that gives me a little bit of an advantage over somebody who just cannot handle the heat very well.
Right.
As far as preparing for it, this summer has been great for us in Western PA. We've had a hot, humid summer, so it's just been exactly I've ordered, but now we have this polar vortex coming in, and I'm like wearing long sleeve shirts all of a sudden. So I'm not real happy about this week being cold, and tomorrow's long ride being in the 60s and rainy. So I have to wear like my bike coat tomorrow when I'm training. But as far as the summer goes, if you have a hot, humid summer, that's a no-brainer. It's going to prepare you well for a race like Louisville or Kona or Texas or Cozumel. Those are all hot races. As far as when I did Cozumel last year, I just trained. I acclimate myself to the heat, and one way I do that is on my trainer. I wear long sleeve shirts. Also, I get my body ready to taking in lots of fluids. Mm-hmm. So usually I take in a large bike bottle of Perform about every 40 minutes. So I'll start drinking, sport fuel every 30 minutes, and I'll try to get to a point where I can drink a whole bottle of sport fuel in every 20 minutes, getting ready for a hot race, so that I'm training my gut to take in lots of fluid that is going to be needed for that upcoming race in the heat.
Right.
So I not only get myself used to training while being hot, I also get my gut used to training with putting as much fuel as I can in it.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that is maybe a little bit of a misunderstanding or misconception about being heat acclimated. A heat acclimated athlete will actually use more fluids than a non-heat acclimated, or at least the same individual. If Suzanne Atkinson is training in 50 degree weather and does a 50 degree race versus Suzanne Atkinson training in 90 degree weather for a 90 degree race, I'm going to use a lot more fluid in the 90 degree race. My body becomes more efficient at cooling itself and sweating. And so you actually sweat. Maybe that seems obvious. You actually sweat more, but some people think that as you get more acclimated to the heat, that you don't need it, that you need less water, and that's what heat acclimatization is. But you actually need significantly higher amount of water, even as your body continues to adapt to the heat. Have you found that to be the case?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Most importantly, sport fuel. Mm-hmm. Not so much. You don't want to be drinking lots of water, because then it's just going to take all the electrolytes right out of you. But you do. I mean, your body's going to need more liquids. I know if I go out and say this weekend it's 60 degrees and I ride, I'm probably going to be going to the bathroom a lot more in a 60 degree ride than I will in a 80 degree ride.
Right.
So then I sort of have to adjust my liquid, my sport fuel that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you have to get your body used to taking in lots of sport fuel. That's really, really important. Mm-hmm. This sort of sounds funny, but I sort of coined the phrase with my coach,
What's
P-score. P-score. And, we have like T-pace, T-score. I mean, we have all these abbreviations in triathlon, like, oh, what's your pace? What's your T-pace or whatever. Whatever. But, you want to make sure you're going to the bathroom, especially on those long bikes. And how many times are you going to the bathroom? That's really important to count that, right? Because it's telling you if you're keeping yourself in a hydrated state or not.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so just, noticing those things, those are really, really important.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify what I meant by requiring more water. It's obvious that you would probably need more water when in a hot environment than a cold, but as far as adapting to the heat, let's say that someone is going to Florida to train for 2 weeks. When they arrive on day one, they're probably going to be taking in a lot more fluids than they would back at home in their cool environment. But during those 2 weeks, as they continue to adapt, they'll actually be able to process more and more fluid, and that's a good thing. And what people think is that as you adapt, you need less fluid than you did on the first day in the hot weather. That's what I meant by needing more fluid, not necessarily hot environment compared to a cold environment. I just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely.
You mentioned, sport fuels. Do you do anything fancy with electrolytes? Do you take any electrolyte capsules?
No, my fuel of choice is Ironman Perform, is because it has such a great sodium content in it and a great carb combination.
And that works really well for you?
It works very well for me in hot environments, like if you're going to go to a Louisville or a Kona where it's humid and it's hot, I'll pop an electrolyte or two in addition to that on the bike. And then on the run, I'll pop an extra electrolyte or two in addition to that. Depending on what your fuel source is, depends on how much more supplementation you need as far as salt tablets go. I know like the regular Gatorade does not have nearly the amount of sodium that something like Perform does. So if I'm out on a 6-hour training ride and I go by a convenience store and I need to get Gatorade because I'm out of my Perform, I get the Gatorade, but I'm also dumping a salt stick tablet in that Gatorade because I need to get that sodium content up. So yeah, I mean, I'm an advocate of salt tablets.
Yeah.
And there's certain times that you will need them.
Yeah, I think that it's important for people training for long course. Ironman, obviously more important than a half iron, especially for hot environments, is that we keep track of how much sodium we're using during our training. And if that training ride was a massive failure, what I like to do is go back and look at how much fluid did I take, how many calories, but also how much sodium did I take in. And then I can make adjustments during training, either for myself or make a suggestion for an athlete until we find a level where they finish a long training ride, they feel really good, they've got energy left over, and then we kind of start working with that as a baseline.
Yep, exactly. And we train the way we race with as far as taking in, our nutrition. A lot of people show up on race day and it's the first time they're trying their nutrition plan.
Right. Nothing new on race day.
Big no. So half the battle is just getting that nutrition nailed. And you're training a couple months before race day.